This video will show you how to replace the Pitman arm on a GMC Sierra 2500. This is part of the front steering and suspension located under the front of your vehicle. Let's get into it. To be able to easily gain access, I like to remove a couple shields from under the front of my vehicle. Directly on the front, you're going to find that you have a plastic skid shield. As you make your way rearward, you're going to find that you have a metallic shield. Let's start removing the pair. As for each of these shields, you're going to be using a 15mm for your mounting hardware. The front shield has 5 pieces of hardware. We'll make sure we're holding that shield. Go ahead and remove the shield from the vehicle. Now we're moving to our next shield. This one's held in place with 4 15mm headed mounting bolts. Now that we've removed both of those shields, as we look up along the driver's side, just in front of the front differential, this is where we can see our Pitman arm. The Pitman arm is attached to the steering box and also attached to our center link. Let's dislodge it from the center link first using a 21mm on the mounting nut. Now once you have the mounting nut off of there, we need to separate the center link from that Pitman arm. I'm just going to use a puller for this. You can also typically just tap on this with a hammer and it should want to separate for you. You can see that it is separating. This is exactly what we're looking for. Typically, it will not come down too much further than this. Get our tool out of here. Safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. We'll remove our center cover using a 22mm. After you've removed that, go ahead and use a 22mm for each one of your 8 lug nuts. Then we can get the wheel off of here. With that wheel out of the way, let's have a look deep in this area. Now we can see our plastic fender liner. We need to gain access to 3 mounting bolts. One of the mounting bolts is right out in the open. The other 2 are going to be located just behind this. Now we don't have to move this very far or completely dislodge it, but we do want to have some maneuverability, so you're going to have to start removing some push clips. You're going to find you have a push clip on the inboard side here. To remove your push clip, start removing the inner portion and then continue on with the outer portion. Remove as many push clips as you deem fit. We just want to try to flex this. Now as I lift it up, we can see the rest of our hardware. So I have that pulled away, and we can see our 3 21mm headed mounting bolts. We're going to remove each of these, but I always like to start them all in just a couple threads once I have them removed. There's our first mounting bolt, and of course a washer. Now on the inboard side, I'm going to be holding onto my steering box. I can continue on to removing each of my 3 mounting bolts. With the steering box, I'm going to have to lift it up so we can bring the Pitman arm out of our center link. And then we're going to carefully lower it down so it's resting on the frame. We want to be careful not to put too much pressure on our power steering hoses or on our power steering shaft. Now I have this tilted so I can gain access to that mounting nut. Before I remove the mounting nut, I always like to make a clear marking. Now what I did is I just used a small chisel. I made a hatch here and a small one right there as well. You can also mark in crayon, whatever's easiest for you. There we are. This is easiest using an impact tool. There's our mounting nut. You're going to find that you have a lock washer. And now we can start removing this. For this, we'll spray it with some penetrant. You are going to have to use a Pitman Arm removal tool. The removal tool will go up and behind the Pitman Arm itself, close to the box, and it's going to have a driver that presses in on the center of the shaft. Now I've got a Pitman Arm Puller. As I mentioned, the ears of it are going to slide over the Pitman Arm itself, and then the driver is just going up against the center shaft on the steering box. For my Pitman Arm Puller, I'm going to be using an 18mm for my driver. Prior to installation of any brand new part, of course, we want to make sure we clean and inspect the mounting area. That would be this area on the steering box. Let's make sure the splines are still in good usable condition. For good measure, we'll use some anti-seize on the splined area, but not necessarily on the threaded portion where our mounting nut would go. Now it's time for installation of the brand new Pitman Arm. I've already transferred my mark over to the brand new Pitman Arm. We'll make sure we align it with our marking on the steering box. We have the Pitman Arm in the proper orientation, so the stud is facing down. That's where it would connect into that center link. Once you have it in the proper orientation and placed onto the steering box, continue on with your washer and your lock nut. Got our washer, the mounting nut here. The torque for this mounting nut is 184 foot-pounds. What you're going to find is when you go to tighten and torque this, the entire thing's going to want to spin on you. So I'm going to be using my impact tool, and I'm going to make sure it's nice and tight. Right there's bottomed out. Just a tiny bit further there. We'll double check to make sure nothing feels loose. The next thing that we want to do prior to installing the box on the frame is, of course, clean the threads on our mounting bolts, and I like to use some red thread locker. We're going to take each one of our 3 bolts and start them into the ports. We don't want to push them all the way through because we still have to align our steering gear. Let's go ahead and take hold of that steering gear. We're going to remove our strap holding it in place. Okay, some movement here. We'll set that strap aside. Now, as we go to get the steering gear in place, we're going to start with the Pitman Arm, sliding that down into the port on our center link. Be aware of any pinch points here. Start sliding that down. Now at this point, let's align our steering gear with all 3 of our mounting bolt ports. We're going to start in all 3 of the bolts before tightening any of them. All three of them are started in and our Pitman arms in the proper placement, so we can continue on with snugging all three of our mounting bolts. The torque for each of these will be 110 foot-pounds. Let's just double check the torque on these. Now we can install our Pitman arm nut. Your brand new Pitman arm mounting nut is a slotted nut. We're going to tighten this up and torque it to 46 foot-pounds. Now on this particular type of hardware, you're going to find you have to install a locking cotter pin. That's the reason why we have a slotted mounting nut. We need to align the slot on the mounting nut in comparison to the port on the stud itself. If it's not aligned, continue tightening until the very next slot is, and then install your locking cotter pin. Of course, we'll make sure we peen it over. Now one last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our shields. We're starting with the rearward shield. We have our 15mm headed mounting bolts. We're going to start in each of them before tightening any of them. They're all started in, let's snug them up. Double check to make sure that's secured in place. We'll continue on with the forward shield next. Same process for this shield. We're starting in each piece of hardware before tightening any. Now that we're done under the vehicle, let's make our way up towards the driver's side fender. This is where we have our fender liner. We're going to install each one of the push clips that you had removed. When you go to install these, make sure you have them in the unlocked position so the center is pulled outward. Once you have the outer portion driven in, lock it in with the center. We'll just double check to make sure that's secured in place. Now we can get the wheel in place. Once your wheel's rested in position, continue on to all 8 of your 22mm lug nuts. We're going to lightly bottom them out. We'll get the wheels safely back on the ground and torque each of them to 140 foot-pounds. We've got the wheel safely on the ground. Let's torque each one of our lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a center cover, install that now. We'll get this in place. We're using our 22mm socket to lightly bottom these out. Double check to make sure it's secured in place. Okay friend, we finished the installation of our vehicle's Pitman arm. The next thing you want to do is take your vehicle for a road test. You're going to listen for any odd noises and of course get yourself in alignment. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.